2,500 years ago, robots guarded Buddha's relics, says legend of ancient India. As early as the ancient Greek Homer, more than 2,500 years ago, Greek mythology explored the idea of automans, that is, robots, the self-moving devices. By the 3rd century BC, engineers in Hellenistic Alexandria in ancient Egypt were building real mechanical robots. The 3rd century BC, as we know, is around the time of Alexander the Great. So they were building real mechanical robots and machines, and such science fictions and historical technologies were not unique in Greco-Roman culture. The one thing I want to comment here is the fact that even King Solomon of ancient Israel, King David's son, King Solomon, who built the first temple, was known to have a beautiful throne, and every step that he took on towards the throne was flanked by statues of lions. And as he was walking up the steps, the heads of these statues of the lions would turn towards him as he was going up the stairs. Obviously, they were robotic. So they had that type of a technology even then, about 1000 BC. Now, as early as the ancient Greek Homer, more than 2,500 years ago, the Greek mythology explores the idea of these robots, self-moving automatons, and by the 3rd century BC, engineers in Alexandria, Egypt of the Hellenistic period were building real mechanical robots and machines, and such science fiction historical technologies were not only unique to Greco-Roman culture. In the recent books, the author says, Gods and Robots, I explain that many ancient societies imagined and constructed automatons. Chinese chronicles tell of emperors fooled by realistic androids and describe artificial servants crafted in the 2nd century by the female inventor Huang Huaying. Techno marvels such as flying war chariots and animated beings also appear in Hindu epics. And one of the most intriguing stories from India tells how robots once guarded Buddha's relics. As fanciful as it might sound to modern ears, this tale has a strong basis that links between ancient Greece and ancient India. The story is set in the time of King Ajatasattu and Asoka Ajatasattu, who reigned from 492 to 460 BC, was recognized for commissioning new military inventions such as powerful catapults and a mechanized war chariot with whirling blades. When Buddha died, Ajatasattu was entrusted with defending his precious remains. The king hid them in an underground chamber near his capital. Traditionally, statues of giant warriors stood on guard near these treasures, but in the legend, Ajatasattu's guards were extraordinary. They were robots. In India, automatons, or mechanical beings that could move on their own, were called Bhuta Vahana Yanta, or spirit movement machines, in Pali and Sanskrit. According to the story, it was foretold that Ajatasattu's robots would remain on duty until a future king would distribute Buddha's relics throughout the realm. The ancient robots and automatons. Hindu and Buddhist texts describe the automaton warriors whirling like the wind, slashing intruders with swords, recalling Ajatasattu's war chariots with spinning blades. In some versions, the robots are driven by water wheel or made by Visvakarman, a Hindu engineer god. But the most striking version came by a tangled route to the Lokapanati of Burma, the Pali translations of older lost Sanskrit texts only known from Chinese translations, each drawing on earlier oral translations. In the tale, many Yantakara robot makers lived in the western land of the Yavanas, which is Greek-speaking. Yavan is basically what even the Turks call Greeks today. In Roma Visaya, the Indian name for Greco-Roman culture of the Mediterranean world, the Yavan secret technology of robots was closely guarded, the robots of Roma Visaya carried out trade and farming and captured and executed criminals. Can you imagine? Robots were doing all this. God forbid. Okay, this was about 500 BC. Oh my goodness. Now, robot makers were forbidden to leave or reveal their secrets of this technology, and if they did, robotic assassins pursued and killed them. Rumors of the fabulous robots reached India, inspiring a young artisan of Pataliputra, Ajatasatru's capital, who wished to learn how to make these automatons, these robots. In the legend, the young man of Pataliputra finds himself reincarnated in the heart of a Roma Visaya. He marries the daughter of the master robot maker and learns his craft. One day he steals plans of making robots and hatches a plot to get them back to India. Certain of being slain by killer robots before he could make the trip himself, he slits open his thigh, inserts the drawing under his skin, and sews himself back up. And then he tells his son to make sure his body makes it back to Pataliputra and starts the journey. He's caught and killed, but his son recovers his body and brings it to Pataliputra. And once back in India, the son retrieves the plans from his father's body and follows their instructions to build the automated soldiers for King Ajatasatru to protect Buddha's relics in the underground chamber. Well hidden and expertly guarded, the relics and robots fell into obscurity. 2 centuries after the Ajatasatru, Asoka ruled the powerful Mauryan Empire in Pataliputra. That's from 273 to 323 BC. Asoka constructed many stupas to enshrine Buddha's relics across his vast kingdom. And according to the legend, Asoka had heard the legend of the hidden relics and searched until he discovered the underground chamber guarded by these fierce android robotic warriors. Violent battles raged between Asoka and these robots. In one version, the god Visvakarman helped Asoka to defeat them by shooting arrows into the bolts that held the spinning constructions together. In another tale, the old engineer's son explained how to disable and control the robots. At any rate, Asoka ended up commanding the army of automatons himself. The exchange between East and West? Is this legend simply a fantasy, or could the tale have coalesced around early cultural exchanges between East and West? Let's remember that Alexander the Great did go into India and also into China. So yes, the Greeks had spread through India into China. Thus, the Chinese even today have the Greek key, that the golden key, that meander thing. Now, on their buildings and on their vestments. Now, the story clearly connects the mechanical beings defending Buddha's relics as automatons of Roma Visaya, the Greek-influenced West. How ancient is this tale? Most scholars assume it arose in medieval Islamic and European times, but I think the story could be much older. The historical setting points to technological exchange between Mauryan and Hellenistic cultures, ancient Greek that is. Contact between India and Greece began in the 5th century BC, a time when Ajatasatru's engineers created novel war machines. Greco-Buddhist cultural exchange intensified after Alexander the Great's campaigns in northern India, about 300 BC. In 300 BC, the 2 Greek ambassadors, Megasthenes and Dimachos, resided in Pataliputra, which boasted Greek-influenced art and architecture, and was the home of the legendary artisan who obtained plans of robots in Roma Visaya. Grand pillars erected by Asoka are inscribed in ancient Greek, and they name Hellenistic kings, demonstrated Asoka's relationship with the West. Historians know that Asoka corresponds with Hellenic rulers, including Ptolemy II, Philadelphus in Alexandria, whose spectacular procession in 279 BC famously displays complex animated statues and automated devices. Historians report that Asoka sent envoys to Alexandria, Egypt, Ptolemy II, which was one of the generals of Alexander the Great, sent ambassadors to Asoka in Pataliputra, India. It was customary for diplomats to present splendid gifts to show off cultural achievements. Did they bring plans or miniature models of automatons and other mechanical devices? I cannot hope to pinpoint the original date of the legend, but it is plausible that the idea of robots guarding Buddha's relics melds both real and imaginary engineering feats from the time of Ajatasattu and Asoka. This striking legend is proof that the concepts of building automatons, robots, were widespread in antiquity and reveals a universal and timeless link between imagination and science. And this is written by Adrian Mayer, research scholar, classics and history and philosophy of science, Stanford University, author of Gods and Robots, Myth, Machines, and Ancient Dreams of Technology. This is from The Conversation. It's here under Creative Commons on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.